We are Steven and Jill.
Together, we've been buying and reselling land since the 90s.
Our data-centric approach leaves our buyers asking, how can you sell it so cheap?
Here on the Land Academy Show,
We answer that and more. Steven Jill here.
Hello.
Welcome to the Land Academy Show, entertaining land investment talk. I'm Steven Jack Butala.
And I'm Jill Dewitt, broadcasting from sunny Southern California.
Today, Jill and I talk about how these are tough times, and here's our response about what to do. As promised yesterday, Jill and I are going to share a little anecdote in the beginning about how we've handled this kind of thing in the past, and actually how our families have handled it in the past to very positive outcome.
Ready?
Before we get into it, let's take a question.
I thought you meant the beginning right now.
Before we get into it, let's take a question posted by one of our members on the landinvestors.com online community. It's free.
I got confused. I thought you meant in the beginning, not the
Man,
beginning.
if you're confused on this side of the camera, imagine what the listeners and watchers are going through.
I can imagine. Jessica wrote, "Hi, I'm looking at a new county where the days on market are okay-ish. They average out to about 103. And there are no low acre property listings on the land sites. So the smallest I can find for sale is 30 acres. But on Zillow, there are many listings in the low acres, like 17 of them between 2.1 acres and 11.5 acres, almost all with long days on markets in the hundreds plus." So I guess my question, she wrote that. I guess she's looking for a response.
Yeah. She means, so what do I do?
Yeah, which is...
So to me, this is a data question.
Right. Do I move on or do I do it?
Yeah. This is a data question. So, and here's the thing. This is actually somewhat of the meat of the show here from a real estate standpoint. The land sites like LandWatch, Land and Farm, Land.com, I guess CoStar owns a lot of these now. Their customer is a guy with the cowboy hat who really is into that lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's typically not on those land sites a guy who builds houses or apartments, not a developer or commercial real estate person. And it's generally not a person it's generally not our customer. People who list on those sites are our colleagues. Now you take a place like Zillow, where Zillow's got an IDX feed from all the MLSs, or most of them. And they also allow people to just post property. And so Zillow's a true hybrid, or a true, like, let's call it like a mishmash / I don't know. It's just real. It's raw. So you can get some great data out of there. So the cowboy hat people generally don't want to horse around with a quarter acre property. So Jessica, this is a fantastic diamond in the rough type question, because I love that you're going out and trying to figure out what the days on market are anyway, just to see whether or not you should send mail there. That you're hugely ahead of the curve for most investors just by looking at that. But I think those smaller properties are real important, because if you see super cheap small acreage property, that's kind of a red flag for me. If you see properties all over the county that you're looking at listed for $300, $400, $500, it really devalues the larger acreage property, in my opinion, most of the time. Mm-hmm. So here's my answer: use Zillow as much as you can. Cross-check it against the other sites like you're doing. Uh-huh. But also throw in Realtor.com and Redfin.com, which are MLS real estate agent listed properties only. And when you take a look at all that data, line it up in a spreadsheet. Don't spend a ton of time on this, but just generally test it for reason. You're going to get the real picture. And then if you got a DOM for raw land at about 100 days, you're good.
At 100.
Yeah.
But way long. You don't want 300.
Yeah,
I don't even like 100. I mean, I gotta say,
100's tough.
When I'm looking at stuff, I don't even want 100.
For land, it's real tough, Joe.
I know.
For houses, I get it.
Right, but then just because I'm looking at both too, I want houses moving and land healthy. That's what I want.
And then to add to it, what you really want to look at, since you're bright enough to understand all of it, you want to look at how many properties are for sale. Mm-hmm. So if there's a ton of properties for sale, that's another red flag. Mm-hmm. Great question.
Cool.
Today's topic: these are tough times. Here's our response about how to handle it. This is the meat of the show. This morning, Jill and I were having coffee in our pajamas, and it's Thursday, so we record all these shows. So it's a big, Thursday's a long work day for us. So we spend some time early in the day planning it out so that we can, with hope, pull it off. And so we were writing some topics for today, and and we were talking about what's going on in the world. And so I said that I started talking about Detroit, and I said it's ingrained in my soul. So I was born in mid '60s. It's ingrained in my soul. My extended family on both sides all were car company people. They both came from different places in the country, and immediately before that, different places in the world as immigrants to work for the car companies, and they all wanted to be in Detroit. Because Detroit, back in the early part of the 20th century, was, an amazing mecca for progress and business, and very, very prosperous. And then in the 60s happened, the 68 riots, and then the 70s happened. And it permanently went away. So, and I was a very young child watching this. And the effect on me that it had consciously and subconsciously is that when we're in tough times like this, it doesn't recover. When it gets, and then to which Jill said, "What's your story?"
Wait. About my family?
Yeah.
You didn't finish what happened. That they stayed?
It never recovered.
That's my way. But I was.
It never recovered.
Can you take it a step further?
Sure, I'll finish it then. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
It never recovered. To this day, it hasn't recovered and never will.
And what did your family? How did your
my
family treat that? And what they do?
Did nothing. They did nothing. They all could have left. They could have very easily said, this isn't working any longer. There's a million things they could have done versus what they did, which is just stay.
Mm-hmm. So here's my story, what we were talking about. It started because I was talking about our neighbors, and I don't remember what else we were talking about. I'm like, God, why I never worry about us? Really goes back to that. Why do I not worry about us? He asked me in the kitchen, he's like, did you worry back when we were starting Land Academy that it would, what if it didn't work out? I'm like, no, I never did. And it wasn't about us. It wasn't, or I shouldn't say that. It wasn't so much about Land Academy. It was more about us. Because I know that. We have proven it. I said, and we've looked at other business models, completely different business models. And I know that if we put our heads down and went all in, we would be successful. It's us, not necessarily what it is, kind of thing. We just know how to overcome and how to push through things. And I thought, okay, where did this come from? I'm like, well, I kind of watched it from my dad. I watched my dad. He left. I mean, I wasn't born yet, obviously, but he left 18, 19 years old, left Grand Rapids, Michigan, moved to California, and never went back. He knew that there was more than what he could get out of Grand Rapids. My mom, it was interesting too, also at 18, left Tulsa, Oklahoma, came to California, never moved back. Knew she was going to dig in and make a life here. So what happened? So my dad became a firefighter for a while. He was an insurance guy for a while. And then he really found out he loved flying. So he did that, which he ended up taking that one to the end. And then there were other careers that he actually considered during that too. And he had the drive and determination, and whatever he put his mind, to, once he found the passion, he did it. So for us, we found the passion. And so for me, this is about, I know it's tough times. This is what we did. Whatever it is, have that passion, and you will get through it. And I'm watching our members do that. I'm watching a lot of people, and it happened before this. We have story after story after story of members over the last 5 years. This is year 5 this month for us, by the way. Yay! But have said, uh-oh, I lost my job. And then they went all in on Land Academy. And then when the opportunity came back, as they're doing Land Academy, putting food on the table and figuring this all out, they've had opportunities to go back and either go back to their former employment, the layoff was over, or they found another job and they kind of went, I don't want to go back now. Now I figured it out. So that's the point I'm trying to make here. Is that tie into your story?
Yeah, whatever comes up in front of your face that you think is an obstacle, you can overcome.
Right.
You can adapt and overcome. And it might take years. It might take an incredible amount of effort. It might take you having to move into some type of, sell your house and move into an apartment building for a while with your family and kind of eat some crow and, with your tail between your legs. But it's going to be, if you have the right attitude, you'll get through it and come back out the other side better than when you started. And, it takes a lot of soul searching and a lot of moxie to get through stuff like that. Jill and I both have a lot of experience separately and collectively now, adjusting to these markets with a lot of success. It wasn't successful in the beginning. You know, Jill and I had to restart everything twice in our careers, and both times it worked.
You know, it's true. It makes me think of, like, we moved into this townhouse. We paid for cash. We were going to flip it, but we ended up really liking it. And then at the time, it's like we were regrouping anyway, and it was small, and it was fine. You know what? I grew up in a house that was 1,100 square feet. My parents rented it for about 18 years, 13 years. It was $600 a month, you know, here in Orange County, in California, and we didn't think twice about it. That was their way of regrouping and building and, you know, getting money going, you know, figuring stuff out until they could then buy a house, and then it went up from there. They did it right. But so there's nothing wrong with that too. I'm sure there's a lot of people right now that you're in tough times, and guess what? Maybe you have to regroup. Maybe you do need to move. Maybe you're going to have to rent something and cut your expenses way down while you work on something, whether it's this or something else, and get back on track. And there's nothing wrong with that. I argue, I know a lot of people, because I know I have a lot of friends that are afraid to do that to the kids. Oh, we can't move the kids. We can't leave the schools.
Yes, there's always something like that.
We can't do this because of the kids, or whatever. I'm like, you know what? I would argue that teaching your kids, like my parents taught me,
and my parents
to
didn't.
Do what it takes.
My parents did not.
Yeah. But you knew it because you did it with us. You knew how to do it.
I mean, I left Detroit as fast as I could.
Yeah, and teaching your kids that you need to make sacrifices sometimes to get ahead is good. Like, this is what I started to say earlier. We were talking about our neighbors. We have some neighbors that through their whole high school years, these kids lived a couple years in San Francisco, then they lived 5 years in Dallas, and now they moved here. And we're talking move these kids like at the end of their senior year of high school. You know, the daughter had to finish high school here, but I'm like, what a great example, because everywhere they've gone, it's gotten better and better financially for their family. It's all been moves up, and they're teaching these kids, you just do what you have to. And these kids are learning to make new friends, you know, and it's all been positive.
So we're in tough times. Mm-hmm. You absolutely can get over it. You know, right. I tend to look at everything from a data factual standpoint. And I've recently I do this several times in my life. You take a piece of paper, you draw a line down the center, and you figure out what business model can work best for you based on what you enjoy, based on what you're good at, or in the worst of times, which is maybe right now for you, what you're going to put up, what you can put up with, and what you can't put up with. And I'll tell you, the whole world is at home on the internet, trying to figure this out.
Right.
And so, but we've been on the internet doing this stuff since there was the internet. So there's a lot of positive things, and a lot of things that we've built in over the other recessions that Jill and I have been through, collectively and individually, that really work for this business model, and we're lucky.
Yep. And
we do have some companies that are not going well at all. We're fortunate, very, very fortunate to have other ones that are doing okay.
Exactly.
And namely, there's nothing that better than buying and selling land.
It's true.
We've quadrupled, maybe quintupled that since this started.
It's true.
And we're gearing up to do it even higher. So
exactly.
In a short way of saying it, you just got to adapt and overcome, and it's going to suck.
Happy you could join us today. You can find us Monday through Friday right here on the Land Academy Show.
Tomorrow, the episode on the Land Academy Show is called How to Use Free Data to Price Your Mailer. You are not alone in your real estate ambition.
Free?
It's free.
Free? Refund, sorry. The Land Academy Show remains commercial free for you, our loyal listener. So wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening, please subscribe and rate us there.
We're Steven Jill. Information
and inspiration
to buy undervalued property.